All right, everybody, good to see you on this beautiful day. We're going to get started here.
You want to talk to Terry?
Make sure we're good. Yep. Make sure we're good. Are you there, my friend? Make sure you keep, I can't hear him. I'm on the wrong thing or something. Hold on here. Go ahead. Yeah, try it. Yes, sir. Now you're live and you're hot. How are you, my friend? Sorry, it took me a minute there. Good. We're ready to go. I got everybody tuning in on us. So, all righty. All right, we are ready. Frank, we're good?
Okay. In 3, 2, and 1.
Hey, folks, welcome back to your Frederick Real Estate Update. I am Darren Ahern with RE/MAX Results, bringing you over 23 years experience. And I hope everybody's having a great weekend on this beautiful September. And I also have not sitting next to me. I miss him dearly, but he's out there somewhere. The man, the myth, the legend with all the money from Presidential Bank Mortgages, who I want to repeat, they lend in all states. And he is on the line with us. Terry, are you there?
I am here. How are you doing?
All right, we're doing great today. We're going to jump right into it. Last week we did a lot with the numbers and everything. I just want to let everybody know real quick because people love it. They like to know what's the flow of the market and what's happening. Last week it was 633. The week before was 631. And this week we are at 641. So we've come up about 9 homes in the week. 1 a day, but we've just stayed really steady. So that's the most important thing. List to value ratio number, I did go and check out, and that is down at 9 instead of 99.3%. After reduction, it's at 99.1, and the original is still at 97.7 pretty much. So things are good. And we see about 85 coming soon. And so all in all the numbers pretty steady, like we've been saying. And that's sounds like a broken record, but that's the truth at the moment. We don't know which way it's going to go. I think we're going to see more sellers come out a little bit. I got 2 listings coming up, and I think we'll have a couple more buyers, especially with what happened with the interest rates this last week and what's coming in the whole 9 yards maybe. So we're going to let you talk about that. All right, you can share where you're at with everybody or whatever you'd like to share. The floor is all yours.
All right. So, went up to New England this past week, and we were taping this show, so I'm still in Maine and heading to Cape Cod for a wedding this weekend, in Connecticut last weekend for a wedding, a beautiful wedding for our niece, Mary Kate. So we've just had a wonderful time up here in Connecticut and Massachusetts and Maine, and it's just beautiful up here. I haven't been up here in 10 years, so we really, really, really do miss it. So, but I have a sister up here that lives in Maine, and then another one that has a cottage next door. So just getting some good family time in.
Very good.
And how was your birthday?
Say it's your birthday. We had a great time. As always, had a lot of fun. Love it. And things are good. So I get my AARP card next year. I've got 363 more days that I don't have to worry about that little card, but I'll be looking for it next year. And that's really going to get fun, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, everything is good. All of our listeners, WFMD.com, in the drop down, you can go back and hear all of the last programs and everything we have. We are now up to, Terry, 427 programs. Alrighty, so make sure you guys tune on in because we're piggybacking, Terry, on the last couple of weeks of what we've been discussing. That is really, really important. So, all right, go ahead. I'm going to let you do more mortgage updates and things. Where have rates and all the other good stuff.
All right, so let's talk about, we saw a drastic reduction in rates this week. Why did that happen? It's the jobs market. Last Friday we saw unemployment go from 4.2 to 4.3% as expected. What we also saw was that only 22,000 jobs were created in the month of August. That was supposed to be around 75,000. But let's talk about the real issue here. Why are Feds going to have to start cutting rates, and what is going on with the jobs market? So we're seeing inflation still hanging out there, okay? A lot of it is because of the tariffs, and I think it's transitory inflation, right? So before, when they wouldn't raise the rates, they were calling it transitory inflation. I think we might have transitory inflation now, which is temporary. So why is it temporary? Because once the tariffs are all factored in and figured out, that bump in inflation is only going to last for that month, 2 month, 3 month period. So once the tariffs are built into the inflation number, I think we're going to actually see inflation come down. So let's talk about what's going to happen with the jobs market. Let's talk about the big news that came out this past week with the jobs market. So they come out with what's called the QCEW. And Darren, what this is it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which have been known to miss numbers, right? Miss employment numbers, overstate them. And so what happened was that was released on Tuesday, and what we basically saw was that the BLS, when they released, and it's called the Quarterly Census of Employment and Wages Report, and what it showed is that the payroll growth in the 12 months through March 2025. So they take the 12-month average, or the 12 months of April 1 to basically through March 31st, 2025, and that number was revised lower by 911,000 jobs. What does that mean? Is that on average, the month over time, that period was overstated. Jobs were overstated by 76,000 jobs a month. They were being overstated. So what did that do? That basically meant that 52% of the jobs that they said were created never ever existed. And you sit there and you go, God, how can that happen? Well, we know that the person in charge of the BLS has been replaced, but you sit there and you say, what? So what kind of effect did that have? Here's the effect that it had, Darren. Is last year we experienced the same exact thing that we're experiencing this year. Rates were up in the 7s. They dropped drastically around the middle of September. And then in September, we started to see the jobs market numbers. Those job markets numbers were inflated. So what did that do? That basically dictated where the market was going to go. It showed a much stronger labor market, so they did not really cut rates. Rates did not get lower. In fact, after last September's rate cut, rates got higher because of the jobs number. And so we're finding out a whole year later that the rates should have been starting to cut last September, okay? Because the job market is much weaker than what was being reported to us. So it's not fair to the people that are being given. So let's talk about who's being given this information. The economists that determine the rates, the federal governors, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve governors, they have to make policy decisions on what they are given. They are given false information, inflated jobs numbers, and that is a huge number, and they dictated policy. So our rates stayed high. Our actual mortgage rates jumped up from September. So we saw rates go up in October, November, and December of last year. And if you turn back to those shows, I was always kind of like miffed, like, what's going on here? Rates are going up. These job numbers are strong. It was all because of these inflated job numbers. So my opinion, Darren, overall, is that we are way behind on cutting rates. Okay? So they have to cut at least a quarter in September, at least a quarter in October, and at least a quarter in December. As they move forward, I think they should continue to cut rates. And I think we're going to see a momentum. So these inflated numbers caused us to be 1 year behind where we should be on cutting rates. So if we see a 0.5% cut next week on the 17th, then basically don't be surprised, okay? Don't be surprised, because they are going to have to make up for lost time due to this inflated jobs number.
That was exactly where I was going. Yeah, no, that's great. That's exactly where I was going right there, where you finished up on was because of all this, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do in the end. And if it's, there's so many people been saying quarter rate, and then another quarter. Now that this news has come out about the job stuff and a bunch of other things, a half may be more probable. What are your thoughts? You really believe we may really get a half rate cut coming up?
I don't think we're going to get a half rate cut, but I believe that is the right thing to do. Okay? So if they ask my opinion, I think that they should cut it a half because we are way behind on cutting rates. And we know that. They should have cut rates without this revised job data. They should have started cutting rates, my opinion was, 3 to 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But you had President Trump kind of demanding almost that Chairman Powell cut rates, and he doesn't want to be told what to do when he's an extremely powerful person. So we're now waiting. We're now at the point where Chairman Powell saying, yes, I believe now is a good time to start cutting rates. Well, I think if the pressure wasn't on him to cut rates, he may have started cutting rates back in July. That's my personal opinion. So I think that we're behind the eight ball. I've talked about it on the show. We've got to cut rates. So the right thing to do is a half point cut there, but the politically good feeling correct thing to do is do a 0.25% cut.
Well, I got you. Well, with that being said, it looks like tell everybody about what happened on Friday if they haven't learned yet about how much the mortgage rates went down the most it has in one day in the whole past year. It sounded like, and what does that look like for refinances?
So refinances. So mortgage rates usually go down a lot slower than they go up. So if you get good news about the market, it's going to push the market, push rates push rates lower. They're going to be a little more hesitant to let the rates. They're going to see kind of where it evens out before they truly give you the full cut in rate. Well, when this past Friday the jobs numbers came out and everything showed a very soft job market, rates dropped almost 0.25% in one day. That's a huge number. We don't see that, but every, several years, that much of a drop in one day. So we did see it a year ago. We did see it in September a year ago, kind of a deja vu. What I talked about is we saw that kind of drop a year ago. We saw rates start to come down in September, and then they went up October, November, December based on the jobs market. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think the rates are going to continue to come down a little bit, but I think our baseline has been lowered to 6.5%, which is a great number to be sitting at based on where we were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months ago, above 7%. So I think that it's all related to the jobs market. I think Tuesday's, change of the BLS, changing all the revising the numbers lower for the last year is going to continue a drop in our interest rates. But I don't think we'll see it as aggressive as we saw this past Friday. This was something. When I saw that, I was like, woo, I'll tell you, we had a lot of buyers are like, what in the world? Now we're talking. Now we're starting to see some action coming down, 16 basis points and all that stuff. So that was quite a bit. And as we know, once the Fed meets and they announce and we know for sure what that number is, do not be surprised if the mortgage rates just for a little bit go back up again, and they may not. If they don't, that'd be amazing, but I'm expecting them to go up a tiny bit and then lax back down. And my whole thing is, Terry, I hope by next spring that by March 1st, this is my number, bank it, put it down, write it down. By March 1st of next year for the spring market, and some would say it's earlier, I do, and some would say it's later, but let's just say March 1st next year, man, that would be nice to see conventional loans under 6% and to see FHA, VA, and USDA loans, government-backed loans, to be at 5.5 or less. So that would be cool. All right. Anything else that you want to share here before we jump right on into our big topic and finish this one up? No. the drop in rates after the announcement was made that we're cutting rates. And people find that very hard to believe. Like, why? That's good news. Well, as I've said in the past, good news sometimes leads to higher interest rates temporarily.
Yep.
So what we're going to see is we're going to see breeding enthusiasm here with lower rates. I think you hit it on the head, is we're going to be at around 6% by February of next year. And we're going to be able to see a rock and roll spring market. It's going to start pretty early, I think. It'll probably start around February 1. And I think that's the time that if you're going to put a house on the market for the spring, you definitely want it on by February 1, is my opinion. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think as we see rates come down and buyer confidence come up and affordability is better, and we see all that starting to take place little by little in this fall, no doubt we're already seeing it. Sellers are going to catch it and they're going to realize, I better beat my neighbor putting my house into the market, because we could actually start seeing inventory going up more. And it may, I don't know if it will outpace buyer demand, if they're going to stay in sync or not, but I really believe we'll see more buyers willing to make a move. And not only that, but I've had a couple more calls this week, Terry, that are tough. You got people with debts. One of them, a divorce, unfortunately, and can't mention the name and all that. I want to be careful of everything, even communities and everything. I just say it's in Frederick, in a high-end community. And it's just, I'll tell you what, I like the calls. We're having a baby. We need a bigger house. I'm getting married. We need a house. I hit the lottery. I bought my ticket in Texas. And I need a bigger house. Those are the fun things, right? I'm in debt. I'm broke. I lost my job, going through a divorce. I had a massive health issue. Now I'm worried. On and on and on. It just seems like there's been enough of that. Thank you. Right. And I'm just excited, though, that I love helping people. I help in every situation, but those are more challenging, more difficult, obviously. And so it all works together. But I think we're going to see a lot more people that have been sitting on the sidelines, both buyers and sellers. I do believe they're going to start to make their moves, realizing that this is good. This is a good thing for me and all that. And so, all right, real quick too, Terry, right before I hit the subject, 2 situational things got information on that came in, and it's so important to hit because it's something you don't think about that happens. But let's just say there's a seller out there, and the situation is that they've got a ton of equity in their house. They're the average American. They got $200,000-$300,000 in equity or whatever. And they've been there, but they just can't maintain the property. It's getting to be too much, the taxes, the insurance, and the upkeep, and the whole 9 yards, and they need to downsize. But here's the problem, Terry. They have no money to put into the house conditionally. None. So what do? We try to find a contractor or so that can do some of the work and such and get paid at settlement and all that. So that's a gimme. That means they know they're going to get some good money and all that. But it's a little risky, but that's one option. The other option is to just give closing help and a credit right out of the gate. Hey, we know this needs fixed, that needs done, and we're just going to give you closing cost help to cover those things up front. And thank you very much. Or you get the price a little bit lower than the market just to create a bidding war, and they know that they're getting a better deal. They'll do the sweat equity themselves or whatever. But the bigger thing is, what about the seller? The seller's trying to downsize. And by the way, when they sell, they're going to actually have cash, enough that they can buy another place in cash, a smaller place. But here's the big problem, Terry. If they're absolutely almost broke, and when I say broke, I mean like they got $1,000 to their name. And this does happen, guys. They don't have the money, Terry, to put down as a good faith earnest deposit with purchasing another place, because all their money's wrapped up in the house they own. They don't have money for home inspection, $1,000, an appraisal. I mean, you need at least $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 cash, but probably $3,000 minimum. I mean, bare bones minimum that you absolutely have to have on the front end before you do anything else. Well, what if they don't have that? That's a problem. That is really, really an issue. I would be like, talk to Terry and see if he has any ideas, right? But that's one situation with somebody selling. But then the other situation could be somebody that's selling to rent. Let's just say the same scenario. The seller has no money, none at all. They don't have no money. I mean, $500 or less to their name. but all their equity's in the house. The house is paid off. They have $300,000 or more in equity, and they have terrible credit. They don't have good credit. Their credit's low, and they know they can't qualify for. They got other debts and things they know they have to pay off, and their credit's not so great. And that credit would be probably under a 600 or whatever, maybe in most cases, or 620. I don't know, depending on the lenders and programs and all that fun stuff. But let's be honest, anybody that has a credit score under 600, it's going to be extremely difficult to get a loan in general. And that's why they need to talk to you to make sure they can get it above these numbers to get in a better position. But let's just say they have no money, but all their money's wrapped up in the house, and they're going to go rent. Okay. Now, finding a place to rent is a problem right away because they look at credit like you're buying a house. So you got two problems. You got a credit problem, but then you've got the problem where they don't have their money yet. So when you sell the house, they're like, they're going to say to me, what do you do? And I say, oh, that's simple. All your money's in the house in both scenarios. Well, both scenarios, you need a rent back. You need to settle on your property, get all that money in your account, pay things off or do whatever. And then we're going to do a rent back for at least 1 or 2 weeks where the buyer will allow you to stay in your house. And then you're going to be able to go find or buy something or find something. That's how that would work. So these are things that are really important to point out because these are the kind of things you can get blindsided with as an agent if you don't ask the right questions. And the biggest question is, do you have other sources of income, savings, money, retirement money, gifting letters you could get on money from family or whatever, if you absolutely had to do the transition you're going to do. And it does happen more and more, Terry, that people, all of their life is wrapped up in the equity of their home, and they've got debts maybe, and they're broke. They lost their job, or they're on disability, Social Security. It could be a gazillion things, and they just don't have the cash anymore. They used to, and now they're like, hey, I got $500, but I got $300,000 sitting in my house or $800,000 in my house, and it doesn't sound like that's even possible. But I'm telling you, it's happening more and more and more. So, all right, the big subject we're going to finish up with, the whole thing is this, Terry, you get ready. I have fallen in love with a TLC house. What's a buyer to do? And this is the tender loving care of the house that's got cosmetic issues and it needs love put in it. And the couples of the person who's buying it, they got bright eyes and they're like seeing sweat equity, and they're just like, wow, I can do all this myself and make a gazillion dollars, and I'm loving it. This is great. It looks like the show's flipping this house and doing this with this house and all of it. And the scenario I have, and I told you, and I'll finish it up with this, that we found a massive TLC house and it cost well over $20,000 in work. Contractor doing the work, and the seller paid a little closing cost, but it doesn't go towards doing this work because all of it had to be done before settlement. We settle this next week on Monday, and it needed a lot of work, a lot more than we thought. And the good news is, because I sold the buyer's house 5 months ago, they have a ton of cash, and that's the good part. They've got the cash to pay for all this stuff. They got cash for putting money down and everything else. They were able to pay their truck off, which, thank God, the car payments just destroy people when it comes to more affordability and qualifying for more. And so they paid the car off, they paid this, they paid that, and they're debt free and they got money. And now they're starting over with a gorgeous place that is literally now has a brand new roof. It has, I can't even, it's got so many great things that are done to it. It's like it's turnkey. But the only reason why that was able to happen is because the estate sale seller, it's vacant house, and they gave full permission, and we got the legal paperwork we did with the addendums and all the legal stuff that I do as an agent to protect my buyer, and the seller is protected too, and it's working out really good. And so I'm glad. This is why experience matters, okay? So when you find a house, guys out there, buyers, TLC, and all that kind of stuff, I told you last week, us agents that are really seasoned and good, we pay attention to the things that are going to be known as lender required repairs, okay? And this is the stuff that if it doesn't get fixed and done, you can't buy the house because you can't get the loan. So Terry, let's say we have a buyer that doesn't have the cash to put into the house, or the seller doesn't even allow. The biggest problem would be if the seller didn't allow work to be done to get the loan approved. That's a problem right there. That stops everything. But let's say they're okay with it, but the buyer doesn't have the cash to do it. What are the options with financing the repairs into the loan? And what are the do's and don'ts that stick out to you when it comes to this kind of stuff? And can they get money from relatives and other sources? Go ahead.
So what you're taking a look at is if you want to buy a house and it needs repairs. Let's talk about some of the options. The most popular that you hear about, but probably is the least amount used, is the FHA 203K. Great loan program, and you can do basically let's say it needs up to $35,000 in repairs. You can do an FHA Streamline. You can basically, an FHA 203K Streamline, to where you take up to $35,000 in repairs to fix everything up and get the house where you want it. And that's a great program. Sounds great, but it does take a little longer to settle. And the one thing that it does not allow for, and this is what kills the loan from moving forward most of the time, is if somebody says, hey, I just want to do, $25,000 worth of stuff, and it's painting and it's carpeting and it's this, that, and the other, you have to have a contractor involved. You have to have a contractor that basically you have a contract with to complete the work. As they complete the work, your loan has money set aside to basically pay the contractor as you go through on an FHA 203K. Here's what most people do. Well, I want to do that myself. Well, you can't. You have to hire a contractor. That is the rule with an FHA 203K. So that causes a lot of people to look elsewhere. So where are you going to look elsewhere? You can do a Fannie Mae or a Freddie Mac, 3% down, similar to the FHA. Probably a little easier to do the renovation loans through there. We offer a renovation loan that's great, and we've done it for people that are putting in a new septic, and basically we will do a 10% down. So if you have 10% of the new home, so let's say the new home is going to cost $300,000, you have $30,000 to put down plus closing costs. And let's say you want to do $50,000 in renovations up front, and that includes this, a new septic, and all this. Then what we're going to do is we're basically going to take a look at that, and we're going to set that money aside, and we're going to give you the money to renovate your home. That is probably the easiest loan to do. So if you need a renovation loan, we do a lot of them, and you just need 10% of the purchase price plus your closing costs. The seller can pay closing costs up to 6%. So the seller can pay all your closing costs. If you have the 10% to put down, we can get you a renovation loan. And that is probably the best, easiest loan out there to do if you're going to do a renovation.
Okay. Hold on, Terry. We got to finish up. We got 10 seconds left. So next time. That's okay. Perfect. So we're going to continue on. Terry's going to give it last thoughts for the whole thing, and be able to contact him. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to your Frederick Real Estate Update. We are here each and every week. Happy buying and selling. Have a great weekend now. Thanks so much. I know we went over 10 seconds.
No, it's perfect.
Love you guys. Take care. Have a great day. We'll see you.